You're live.
Welcome to the show, everybody. We're going to be taking calls live for the next 1 hour. Any questions you send in via email, calling in through the Discord server, this time is yours. Any question on dating, relationships, life, love, everything in between, parenting, marriage, engagement, discernment, breaking free from pornography, anything that's on the radar, got any questions on relationships, this hour is completely yours. So if you want to get a question bumped up the priority list to make sure it's answered first, we'd invite you to consider becoming a patron. The Patreon's supporters get #1 priority in terms of getting all their questions asked during this hour. Josiah, our trusty sidekick here, many of you we're probably very familiar with him over at his time as Thursday with Pints with Aquinas. We have been beyond blessed to have him now full-time on staff here at Chastity Project to help us get our act together when it comes to digital content. And so for those of you who may recognize his voice, Josiah, it is so good to have you on board with us.
Good to be on board. It's a nice ship.
Well, you can have the keys. We don't know where we're going, so it's all yours.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, but can you help people understand how to submit questions in technical jargon?
So if you guys want to submit an email question, we ask all of those anonymously because we know some people have some really sensitive questions. Some of the questions we've already addressed from the email have been quite sensitive. So that's just live@chastity.com. You send an email there. I have them in order of most least, newest to oldest, and we ask those in order. If you'd like to ask a question in the Discord server, you just join the Discord server with the link in the description, and you join the stream stage, and then you just raise your hand. And if you would be so kind, we would love any server boosts we can get on Discord for those of you familiar, so we can get some more, get a custom invite link, all that other stuff. That's all that other good stuff that comes with Discord. So. But yeah, I hope everybody's having a great day today.
And on Discord, they can either type in a question or just ask like a phone call?
Yeah, if you type it into the chat. So on the stream stage, there's a chat window beside the actual stage that Jason and I are on. And if you type it in there, I can also see those, and I keep those in order, and we ask those. So
yeah. And Josiah, you had a cool idea a couple of weeks ago to come up with a dating survey of young adult singles, and I think were there some married couples. Just what is the perception of Catholic dating in the modern world? What kind of prompted you to want to create that survey that we did a show on an episode or two ago?
So I think part of it is that, this has never been like you have a pretty good handle on it. Because you talk to so many young people, but there are a lot of Catholic married people who've been married, even as few as between 5 and 10 years because of how much stuff has changed. I would used to get advice from that. It would just be not, just totally absent of kind of the situation that was happening. And so it was more I wanted to see if that was just a thing I was experiencing. That's why we added onto it also the, portion for the married couples, but then also I just wanted to see what it's really like, because I know my perception of the Catholic dating world is super warped, being in the capital of the Catholic English speaking world, living in Steubenville full time. So
did anything surprise you in the results that came in?
Did anything surprise me? I think the thing that surprised me was so we didn't actually look at we did promise everybody, and I am working on this right now, publishing the results for everybody to look at publicly. And we didn't talk about this in the video, but the thing that surprised me was how little faith in the orthodoxy of the youth that the married people had. All of the do you accept the church's teaching on X questions came in upwards of 90%. All but one of them came in upwards of 95%, actually.
Yeah.
And the average answer of married people when they were asked what percent of the people who took the survey are going to what percent of them are going to say yes, the average answer was 40% across the board. That was the most surprising thing. I thought there would be a lot of mismatches, but that's not one I expected. So.
Yeah, and I think that's why the church has a super important role of just getting these young people together, young adults to meet each other. There's a lot of young adults that have exact alignment of values, of faith, of spirituality, of vocational goals and aspirations, but they're just having the darndest time actually finding each other in the modern world, in their job sites, in their gyms, whatever. They're just not finding these kinds of people. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons we just started these wilderness backpacking things. We had 2 this past weekend. Paul J. Kim hosted one out in Austin. I think he got like 35 young adults came with him and this awesome young adult priest. And then also we did one in Yosemite, which was just incredible. We stayed at this ranch, Overall Good Day Ranch is the name of this place. And it was just incredible. And we spent 4 days out there with this amazing young priest. He's just 2.5, just turned 3 years from his ordination this week, and just saw some of the most unbelievable stuff. We had a coolest experience. When we reached the summit, on the top of this waterfall, we'll typically take an hour for prayer. We did a rosary for 15 minutes, and the balance of time we just spent in silent prayer, talking to God. And everybody was kind of praying like, I want to see a bear. I want to see a bear. Like multiple people are praying for that. Literally, the alarm goes off in my pocket. Okay, the hour's up. I said, okay, at the end of that switchback, let's just stop, let everybody catch up, regroup. And we all piled up in that spot. And then who shows up? This massive, awesome black bear. Now, it was brown, as some black bears are. So people in our group, some of them thought it was a grizzly. They start screaming and running. I'm like, no, don't panic. But this awesome big fella just comes lumbering right by us. I mean, 15, 20 feet away. Couldn't care less that we were there. So it was just this epic highlight of the entire trip to get to see this massive bear so up close and right as our prayers were answered at the end of that hour. So that was a super incredible highlight. We found 4 massive sequoias arranged in the shape of a cross, and we wedged kind of a log in between them to create an altar. And so we had this altar created between these trees that are basically older than the mass is itself, 3,000 plus year old trees. And so it was just a epic, incredible adventure. The next one we've got coming up is in Switzerland. So you can still sign up for on time if you want to go to that one. Just go to jp2trails.com. Then the next one is Italy. And then we've got exciting ones coming up in the fall as well. So, but yeah, one of the reasons I created the whole thing is because I think the church has a grave obligation to create opportunities for young adult Catholic singles to just meet each other. It's not enough to create an app, hand them an encyclical and say good luck. Like, we have to create opportunities. And so that's one of the goals behind our whole mission at JP2 Trails, is just let's get young adults together and, God willing, kickstart some of their vocations.
It's awesome. That's great stuff, man.
So,
yeah.
Any questions rolling in?
Was there any? Yeah, we got a question, but I wanted to ask you, was there anything from that surprised you?
From the survey?
Yeah. Was there any answers that were shocking to you?
I was surprised to see how many of the guys preferred the Latin Mass. I had underestimated how many had. I mean, I'm kind of spoiled because the parish we're at in Scottsdale kind of integrates so much of the new and old together. To me, it's kind of what Vatican II actually wanted in terms of the keeping of some of the ancient languages in it with Latin, Greek, but the predominance of language being the vernacular, yet with an altar rail, with, a beautiful sacred liturgy and sacred polyphony and chant and stained glass windows. Like, we've got this beautiful blend. And so I kind of take for granted, hey, I can find the sacred, in the Novus Ordo, whereas a lot of people are in parishes where, like, no, it's either the Kumbaya Mass that looks like the church is a picnic ground and there's beach balls and, like, it's just goofiness, or Latin Mass. And so I think a lot of people think the only way to experience the sacred and the traditional is going to the Tridentine liturgy, where I in my personal situation, haven't found that was necessary because there's so much sacredness in our parish. But I was surprised by the preponderance of males who were opting for the Latin Mass. And part of that is sampling bias. It's not as if we have a clear cut of all people baptized Catholic in the culture. It's more people that are following our content and may veer towards a traditional liturgical format. But that was a surprise for me.
All right, well, we'll get into our questions here. This first question is actually, it's an email question, so we'll keep it anonymous, but it's actually prior to last week's episode. We just didn't get to it. So, well, thank you, sir, for waiting. But the question is, I am 19 years old and I have a girlfriend. I'm struggling to navigate lust and maintain a healthy relationship with my girlfriend. How do I break the news to her that I am not ready for a relationship? Is there another way?
If you're not ready, then, love, Mother Teresa said, sometimes hurts. It does. And so you have to look at your options here. What if you know in the core of your being that I'm not ready for the heart that I'm asking for of this woman, and you don't talk to her about that, and you just kind of tow her along, thinking, I don't want to have a hard conversation, so we'll just keep things as is, and then hopefully I'll just get ready for a romantic relationship as we're moving forward. But let's say you don't reach that point. But meanwhile, she's becoming more emotionally invested in the potential future of this relationship. And then her mind naturally will go forward like, hey, I wonder, when we might get engaged, and, I could see myself marrying this guy and he seems really super duper. And so it's almost like you're walking her heart up a mountain when you know there's a cliff that you're going to face. And so if that's the case, the further you take her in the relationship, the harder the drop is going to be. So the most loving thing is to let her down now instead of a quarter of a mile from now, when the drop is going to be that much more painful. And so I would begin the conversation with something like this: honey, there's really something that's been weighing on my heart a lot the last couple of weeks. Is it okay if I talk to you about this? So you're kind of starting off the relationship, the conversation, starting by asking her permission to be vulnerable and open your heart about something. And she'll certainly say, oh, yeah, honey, well, what is it? What's been on your mind? Please talk to me. And so you're inviting a receptivity of this difficult subject. And then explain to her how much you enjoy her company and how much you like about her. And because you like her and love her so much, that you don't want to hurt her. And you feel that you want to fall in love with her for all the right reasons. You want to love her rightly as she deserves to be loved. And you feel this grave sense of responsibility in that. And you're questioning not if you like her. You're not questioning if you're attracted to her enough. You're questioning am I ready for this? Am I ready to love her as she deserves? And then you share, I feel like I haven't prepared myself as much as I need to love you the way that you deserve to be loved. Because I think her inclination is going to be to immediately think, I'm not enough for him. I'm not pretty enough, or I'm not fun enough, I'm not attractive enough. Like, they're immediately going to point it right at themselves, I think, is the woman. And so you want to diffuse that misunderstanding, that suspicion, that fear that the problem is her, by saying, no, I got to take extreme ownership over this. Problem is me, and I really feel like I need to get in a point, and I'm not going to sit in my butt about this. I've decided that I'm reaching out to a spiritual director. If you think you're in need of mental health, counseling services, like, I'm going to go do that. I'm going to dig up some junk that I feel like I've swept under the rug. This relationship has really made me realize that I need to get my junk together. In a sense, I've got to clean my room before inviting company inside. And any real relationship requires open and honest and vulnerable communication. And if you can't do that, what you got? Like, you have a facade if you can't have open and honest, vulnerable conversation. So this is a real test of love. Like, will she receive this? And are you in a place where you want to give, not an ultimatum, but like, can I have just 3 months? Can I just have 6 months? Because you don't want to put her life indefinitely on hold. Like, why don't you just sit around for 3 years while I get my act together, and then hopefully I will, and then you'll just be sitting there waiting for me? Because you can't ask that of her. But you could say, could I have a season, so to speak, maybe 2 months, 3 months, or whatever you think you might need, where I can really focus intently on this. And I don't know where you're at in terms of thinking how far off you might be to be perfectly prepared, because you're never going to be perfectly prepared for a relationship. John Paul II, in one of a play that he wrote before he became Pope, said, love is a constant challenge thrown to us by God. And so you're always going to be stretched in a relationship beyond the capacity that you feel ready for. But if you know in your heart right now, I'm not ready for this, then love her enough to tell her that. It might hurt, it might sting, but she's a big girl, and I think she'll appreciate your honesty, your sincerity, your transparency, your intentionality. I think there's just a lack of that in today's modern dating world. That's why you got a lot of ghosting going on, where you express initial romantic attraction to somebody, but then you realize it's not the right time or it's not the right fit, but you don't want to have a hard conversation, so you just poof, and you just disappear. And then the poor girl's left there waiting, like, okay, where did he go? Like, what did I say? Did I say the wrong thing? Did I do the wrong thing? And the poor girls stay up at night until like 4 o'clock in the morning, analyzing the inflections of his tones in his last voice message. They're reading his text and outlining the sense. Well, maybe the verb was modifying the prepositional phrase and he meant this and not that. And like, they're pulling their hair out trying to figure out something because he just doesn't want to have a hard conversation. And she's like, well, but where did he go? 1 minute he's all into me, and the next minute he won't even answer my messages. Like, did he Was he abducted? Does he like another girl? Was he deported? He had a really cute accent. Like, where did that guy go? Like, don't put her through that. If you have enough courage to initiate a relationship with clarity and confidence, then I think you kind of owe it to her to have the same confidence and clarity when it comes time to stepping away from the relationship. And so if you're not ready to have that kind of a hard conversation, then you're definitely not ready for a relationship. And so have the hard conversation, and don't, I know you might think, well, I don't want to hurt her. Trust me, it's going to hurt her 10 times as much if you can't be straightforward with her, because then she's left in this fog of like, why does he always seem so close but so far at the same time? Don't put her through that. Have a straightforward conversation. Easier said than done, but in the long run, I think it'll pay off. So hopefully that helps.
Great. This next question, I'm really happy we got a question like this, because this is a topic that we wanted to address, but I don't think we've got a question on it yet. So thank you for taking time. Thank you for taking my question. I have a homosexual daughter who's been living with her partner for 3 years. Her partner looks to be transitioning to be a man, but I'm not 100% sure.
Mm-hmm.
It just appears from some photos we've seen. When our daughter moved in with her partner, we told her that we cannot accept her partner into our home as a guest because of the serious sinful nature of this relationship. The fact is that it's very distressing for us to be around them. They live 4 hours away from us, so we don't see them often. When our daughter visits, she comes alone. However, our relationship is not very close with our daughter. She's not communicative and only visits on holidays, and we do not discuss the partner. We do not discuss the partner when in our lives together. Some people may think this is an extreme approach. We've also been told by a couple of good priests that we do not have to acknowledge the relationship and that our approach is acceptable from a spiritual point of view. I would like to know your thoughts on these types of situations.
Okay. The first thing I would do is, one, ask all of our listeners to just say a Hail Mary for you and your family, so that we could just begin this with intercession, to realize that sometimes, I always say, people sometimes put up a wall so high, you have to go up to heaven to get over the wall. And so you begin with that intercession, with that prayer, fasting. I mean, yesterday, Chris and I were wrestling with something in the family. I'm like, hey, let's just fast together tomorrow about this thing. Okay. Yep. We're game. So pray, fast, offer up your suffering. This is first and foundational when addressing these things. Secondly, I would encourage you to explore the use of different language when it comes to your daughter. Like, you don't have a homosexual daughter, you have a daughter who experiences same-sex attractions. And what I'm doing in saying that is not invalidating the fact that she experiences perhaps exclusively same-sex attractions. Those are an experience, but they're not an identity. And so what I mean by that is that the church does not teach that there's 57 types of people, LGBTQ, or the whole alphabet. The church teaches that there are only 3 persons in existence. You have divine persons, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. You have angelic persons, the angels and the demons. And then you have human persons made in the image and likeness of God, male and female. And that's it. And so if I experience exclusively heterosexual attractions, I don't really identify myself as like, hey, I'm straight. It's like, I remember a kid came up to me after talking and was like, are you straight? I'm like, no, I'm Jason. And they were like, what? And what I was trying to do with that is, like, I said, yes, I exclusively experience, opposite sex attractions. I'm not attracted to members of the same sex, but straight really isn't my identity. Like, if I'm a book, that's on page 57. It's not the cover story. And so I think it's important in our language that we talk about people, so we're putting their personhood first, who experience same-sex attractions. Now, this is just a linguistic thing, but I think it's important because it's kind of like the pro-life thing. Are we pro-life or are we anti-abortion? Like, whoever gets control of the language tends to win the debate from the start. And so make sure we're putting your identity of your daughter first before the experience that she has of same-sex attractions, which is a real experience. And so we're not going to undermine that or erase these individuals. No, that's not the route we're taking. We're just putting their personhood before their sexual attraction, because our world tends to want to sexualize our identities like it sexualizes cheeseburgers. Everything's got to be sexual. That having been said, let's get to the core. If your daughter knows where you stand on this issue, which I presume is abundantly clear, then I don't think it's necessary or helpful to continue to beat the subject over and over and over. That every time together, like, hey, by the way, did I let you know that I disagree with your lifestyle? Obviously, if we did that, it would incinerate any bridge that you're trying to build towards your daughter. And so this is going to be a bit of a marathon in terms of like, we want that silver bullet. Well, what's that one thing I can say to my daughter that's going to zing her and just totally change her life? I haven't figured out what that is. We can't flip our attractions on and off like a light switch. And, what your daughter needs to see is the love of Christ, because we can't control our attractions necessarily. I mean, we can reinforce them by how we live or behave, but we can't just flip them all on and off like a light switch. But we are in control of our actions, obviously. And so your daughter chooses particular actions, and she knows where you stand on that. But what I would try to do, just perplex her with your love, that every time she gets around, you are affectionate to her, you are affirming, how's work going? Hey, did that new project come through? And hey, we're going to go see this movie, of just being in her presence, like perplexing her. It's like, wow, like I know mom and dad are totally not on board in my relationship with this partner, but man, they really love me. They're sending me birthday gifts. They're sending me cards in the mail. They're checking in on me. They just love me so much, and I can't deny that. That's going to put a bit of a wrench in the machine that they've been taught to live with, of the same-sex, agenda of just like, hey, if someone tells you the way that you're living is not in accord with God's plan for you, that person hates you. They're bigoted against you. They're just a homophobic bigot, and you should just shun those people out of your life. This binary of like, if people love you, they agree with everything you want to do. And if they don't agree with you, then they hate you. We need to help them mature out of that and realize, no, love, as Mother Teresa said, to be real must hurt. It must cost. It must empty us of self. And so holding the line like you are, of like, we cannot allow you and your partner to sleep in the same room as our house, because that's endorsing this. So holding the line is not a lack of love. It's an expression of love. It's a love that's tough. And so as long as she's willing to respect that rule, while still coming by for holidays, keep doing what you're doing. We have a website, I think it's prayersfornuns.com. I think that's what it is, that we created with the help of this awesome guy, Joey Pontarelli, who runs a ministry alongside of ours called Restored. Created that URL where you can just type in a person's name, submit it through their website, and it'll, if you want, well, you could pay, because it costs money to put the stamp and send out the envelope. We'll send your prayer petition to more than 100 convents of nuns. Put your daughter's name in there. Drop a couple bucks, send out some prayer requests to these cloistered convents of religious sisters, asking them to pray for your daughter.
Nuns.
Prayersfromnuns.com, is that the right one?
Yeah.
Prayersfromnuns.com. I mean, these women are the powerhouse. I mean, when back in May I was over in Australia, and it was just getting bonkers. There were witches showing up at our talks and all this crazy stuff going on. I'm like, I ain't messing around with this stuff. I called up Sister Bethany Madonna. I called up this exorcist priest. I'm like, hey, can you guys send in some major prayers? And Sister Bethany Madonna, she's like, I am on it. I will notify every single sister of life that we have, especially the ones that are old and suffering, and we are all going to intercede for this petition. And so it's like you're on the ground in Afghanistan and you're surrounded by Al-Qaeda, and you call in, I need some Apaches, I need some F-35s to swing in, and then the air support comes in. That's the heavy hitters of the contemplatives in our church. Take advantage of that so that we don't think it's just up to human strategy to solve these problems. But yeah, perplex your daughter with her love. I commend you for what you're doing and holding the line, as hard as that is. I mean, that's one of the toughest parts of parenthood. Just feeling like you're walking this tightrope. Am I being too strict? Am I being too lenient? Maybe I am too strict. My child calls me Hitler. Maybe they're exaggerating. That's just a metaphor. Like, you're always doubting yourself. But, our kids at the end of the world, they're going to have an abundance of buddies, but they only have one set of parents. And so I would be a parent first and then the buddy. And so continue to love your daughter, hold the line. And just in the meantime, if she does become open to it, try to share some resources with her that might kind of challenge her perception that it's all gay pride or gay shame, that there's nothing in between. You either have to hide in a closet out of fear that if anyone knew you had these feelings, they're going to hate you and be bigoted against you, or just forget about God, church, and the Bible and march down a gay pride parade. Like, those are your only options. Basically, live a life of loneliness, misery, repression, and self-shame, or just throw out the church and do whatever you want. There's like nothing in between. But there is the possibility of chastity, of walking in intimacy with God, giving him lordship over your body, your sexuality. Does that make all your attractions disappear overnight? Typically no. But the nice thing is that your holiness doesn't depend on your attractions. It doesn't. Like, I mean, as a guy that is exclusively attracted to women, I almost wish my holiness is dependent on my attractions, because then I'd be like, oh, I think girls are pretty, like I am such a holy man. No, like your holiness is measured by your willingness to conform yourself to Jesus Christ crucified. And so how do you do that as a person who hopefully loves God but experiences same-sex attractions? How do you live in that tension and grow with God? If you go to our website, chastity.com, and you go to chastity.com/SSA for same-sex attractions, you'll find resources there, like the movie Desire of the Everlasting Hills, or The Third Way, or different ministries that are out there. I was at Desert Stream is a great one. Marco Casanova, we had him on the podcast Lust is Boring, kind of sharing his experience as a man who experienced same-sex attractions and how God really spoke to his heart in a loving way in that wilderness. And to realize that sainthood is not only just a calling, it's a real possibility for all of us. And so go to chastity.com/SSA. And if your daughter is open to exploring what the church really teaches on this, that it's not just some list of regulations and rules that lead to a life of misery and shame. No, that God's calling you to have life and have it abundantly. What does that look like? As someone who's experienced the same-sex attractions, check out the Desert Stream ministry. Check out chastity.com/SSA. So be assured of our prayers for your daughter and just keep loving on her.
Awesome. Our next question is from the Discord, actually. But
can I jump with one last thought on that?
Yeah.
Kim Zember has lots of great content online. Kim Zember, Zember. This is a woman who experiences same-sex attractions and is growing in sanctity and holiness and just sharing her mission with the whole church. And I think if your daughter could spend some time listening to some of Kim's content, the interview that we did with Kim, it'll really kind of stretch her understanding of what the church teaches on this, and that Christ is wanting to meet us in these difficult places, not shun us and abandon us. So Kim Zember, remember that name, look up some of her content, and if your daughter might express any little bit of openness to hearing a new angle on the church's teachings on this, that's forever old and faithful to church teaching, but presented in a new and fresh way, check out Kim Zember. So back to you, Josiah.
Awesome. So this one's from the Discord. It was put in a text last week, and we didn't get to it, so we'll go for it now.
Okay.
It says, I need some advice on dating. There's this girl I met a few years ago at my parish. She's a very modest woman, godly woman. She's not open to dating or looking for a boyfriend. We have a good friendship, bond, and talk every now and then. I really want to tell her how I feel, but at the same time, I don't want to ruin the brother and sister in Christ relationship we have. We're going to Rome in July for the Jubilee year. Should I wait till she is open or just move on?
Yeah, well, I think the key is finding out why she's not open to dating. If she's open to sharing that, to me, that's what you need to figure out, because she might be real clear, like, hey, I feel I might be called to the religious life, and so I'm really trying to discern this right now. Or it might be, I went through some really bad experiences with guys on dating, and for the next year or so, I just need a break. I just need some stability. I need some peace. I need to be able to learn how to trust again. Maybe that's where she's coming from. Maybe it's like, no, work is really busy right now, and I just feel like I just don't have the bandwidth to take on a romantic relationship. Like, there could be so many valid reasons that she has for not really feeling open to a romantic relationship right now. And if you don't have any clue what those things are, and then you try to kind of push it a little bit, it could backfire. Or maybe she's, as the days and months go on, could become increasingly open to it. I have some friends over in Rome that the guy was just in love with this beautiful woman from the get-go. And so he asked her out, and she's like, oh, thank you. You're a great guy, but I just see us just as friends. And the guy's like, bummer. Okay, I respect that. And they just stayed friends. A year later, he goes and he asks her out again. Hey, I was just checking to see if anything's kind of changed there regarding feelings, because I'm still really interested in you. And she's like, oh, thank you so much. You're a fantastic guy, but I don't really see you as a boyfriend. And he's like, bummer, man. Year goes by, and he decides, okay, I'm just going to give you one last shot. And this is out of 3 years in. And he says, yeah, I just wondering, maybe could I take you on a date? And she's like, well, and by then she had really started to be attracted to his personality and, just him as a human being. It's like, sure, let's go on a date. And she totally fell in love with the guy, and they ended up getting married, and they live in Italy now. And it's just totally an unconventional love story, because you think, okay, if she says no, drop it and just move on. And obviously you need to do that and be respectful. But in the same respect, maybe a little patient perseverance can pay off. You just have to discern, am I okay sitting around for the next year or two if she might not become open to this thing. But I think it's really a shame when you do like a girl and she's not interested in a relationship and you just drop the friendship because of it. I remember speaking at a college once, and this girl came up afterward, just very attractive girl, and she said she shared with me that how hard it was for her to look the way that she does because so many guys ask her out on dates, and if she says no to them, they won't even be her friend anymore because they're like, what's the point of being a friend to you if it's not going to lead to something romantic? I can't handle that. It's not even worth the investment. I'm out. And so she says, I literally have no decent guy friends because as soon as they find out I'm not interested in dating them, they want nothing to do with me. What a shame, to be like, well, if I can't date you, then I won't even be your friend. Imagine if some of those guys just stuck around to be a friend of that woman. Who knows what might have happened after 6 months, a year, 2 years. I mean, maybe she never would have developed feelings for them, but maybe they would. And we just got to realize that the end goal of being a woman's friend isn't what you can get out of her. It's just to be a brother in Christ to her. And you've got to have some sturdiness to your heart because maybe those feelings won't arise in her heart. Maybe she will be attracted and enter into a dating relationship with somebody else. And then you've got to prepare your heart of like, these are feasible possibilities. Could you be the one she ends up attracted? Absolutely. But John Paul II, when he would go on hikes with young people in the wilderness in Poland, would have these kind of spiritual direction sessions where they'd ask him relationship questions. And in the end of them, he'd always punt the question back to them with these words. He would say, but you must decide. As a good spiritual director, he never made up their mind for them. He kind of helped them sift through the possibilities, see the pros and cons, and then he would respect their free will and say, but you must decide. And so I would say right now, continue to grow in your friendship with this woman and see what happens. Maybe through this friendship, you could gain some insight as to why she might not be interested in a romantic relationship. Because maybe she's interested in one, but not with you. Or maybe she's interested in one with you, but for her, for some personal reasons, it's just not the time yet for her to give her heart away. And so maybe with some more patient friendship, you could have added clarity in regards to why she's a bit reticent to enter into a romantic relationship. Hope that helps. So, Josiah, back to you for the next question.
Yeah, we have a peanut butter prophet in the Discord. Raise their hand, so we're going to bring them up.
All right, peanut butter prophet. Let's go.
Earth to Jason, Earth to Jason.
Hey there.
Hello.
What's happening?
First, I just want to say I am grateful that I'm able to not only join the server, but for accepting my call to this sort of special event.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for calling in.
And with out of the way, I guess my question kind of starts with a story. Mm-hmm. I already posted it on the chat, so give me a moment to read it off, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, thank you. But so a few years back, a famous dude who had a tough in the entertainment industry came to my hometown. Things started off rough, but eventually got better when this famous dude got everyone to a restaurant. And then from there, not only did he offer to get sign some autographs for us, but it was at that point when I wanted to show what my hometown was all about. So I think when we were all on the table in the restaurant, I initiated some sort of icebreaker where I'd say, hey, we don't know everyone's name, so how about we go all over the room, all over the table and say hey, what's your name, what's your hobby, and what's a fun fact about you? I mean, that's not for verbatim, but it was something to get everyone to know everyone else, even if it was just for a day. And then as time went on, this famous dude, he treated us with food, but not only that, he paid off for the whole for the whole table. And not only that, when things were just kind of wrapping things up, before we all went our separate ways, he said that if we ever crossed paths again, that he would remember my name as much as I would remember his. And then we parted ways. And then a few years later, I learned that this famous dude, he got married to an old friend of his, and they're living off pretty good. So my question is, with people like me and everyone else on that table, what do you think happened, and what do you think you can take out from that?
What happened in terms of his connection that he experienced with you?
Okay, so I think before we went to the restaurant, I told him if he wanted a hug, and he said, yeah, go for it. And then we hugged, and then he also gave me a compliment of like how good my coat was, because back then this was in like
The
November.
question, buddy?
Go on.
What's the question?
Oh, I'm just saying, like, what can you interpret out of this, and like what got him to like a better spot? Because like I have like a feeling that it was that one small moment where like not only me but like everyone else at that table like had some sort of like ripple effect in a positive way.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough one not having been there, not truly knowing you, not really knowing him. What clicked, what made you stand out versus someone else, or like, it's hard to answer because technically he's the only one who could answer that question. Was there something in the conversation that, made him realize, hey, this guy kind of sticks out, or I find something in common with this guy, or this guy's personality is really cool, Ultimately, I think he's the only one who could answer the question. I wish I was there because then I could kind of have an idea of like, oh, I see what's going on here. As someone who travels and speaks a lot, I meet, sometimes 100,000 people a year, and honestly, I have trouble remembering my own children's names sometimes. I'm like, hey, Kobe, John Paul, no, Mary, you, that one, number 3, 4, what, so I mean, the memory for me is some people like John Paul II, he could see somebody in a Wednesday audience and they'd be like, oh, Pope John Paul II, pray for my aunt, she has cancer. And I'm like, oh, God bless you. And then they've told me like 10 years later, they see the Pope and they're like, oh, Holy Father. And he says, oh, how is your aunt? Is her cancer gone away? And they're like, what the heck? Like, how did you do that? Some people have that gift, I would say, and it's just in who they are, like Pope John Paul II. Other times we might not necessarily have that gift, but, a couple people that I meet per year, will really stick with me. Yeah, that conversation. I mean, something clicked in there. It was kind of like a divine appointment. And I remember those people sometimes by name, sometimes by their face. And it's just like, yeah, that was really a remarkable connection that happened on that trip, or the testimony, the conversion that person happened. So sometimes it's in the person, sometimes it's in the connection that's shared. I can't say, because I wasn't there. But what you could do, I would say, for this guy, when thoughts of him come to mind, no need to ruminate or be anxious or overly curious. Instead of going into that, just stop and just say a Hail Mary for him, or just say a little prayer for him. That way, instead of your imagination getting the best of you for the better or for the worst, you can transform that moment of perhaps distraction or anxiety or whatever and just an act of prayer for this person and for his life and his current relationship. And that way you're loving him. Even though he's at a distance, you might not ever see each other again. It's totally fine. When he comes to mind, offer a prayer, and then you're moving forward. So I hope that helps.
Awesome. We have a question we have an anonymous question from the email. My wife struggles with and dreads the newborn stage as the husband. Oh, this is for you, both of you. So let's save this for next week.
Okay, yeah, because Crystal will have some good feedback on.
Yeah.
Yeah, she'll have some good feedback on that one.
What advice do you have for older? So this is a different email question. What advice do you have for older single Christians who feel discouraged? I grew up hearing that marrying young was ideal, so being single in my early 30s sometimes makes me feel like I'm not good enough for Christian. Like I'm not a good enough Christian. I couldn't find somebody to marry. How can we talk to younger Christians about how great and beautiful young marriage is without making older singles feel like they failed if they didn't marry young?
Yeah, no, you didn't fail, I don't think, at all. I mean, I don't know your story, your past. I mean, sometimes people waste all their teens and 20s bar hopping and clubbing and whatever. And yeah, you could squander years of your vocation by wasting it in those directions. But my hunch here is that that's not the situation. There was an openness there, but you just didn't find the right person during that time frame. What I often tell young adults that I meet is like, look, if I just took you, and typically it's young adult single women that are just like, what the heck is going on? I'm 30 whatever years old and Prince Charming is not showing up. And it seems like the higher my standards are, the fewer there are guys that are capable of meeting them. Do I just lower my standards to settle and just so I can move on to my vocation? What do I do? What I often tell them is like, if I just took you and I just stuffed you into like a little time machine and I sent you back to the 1930s, you'd probably have 5 marriage proposals by now, because guys were cut from a different cloth back then. They were coming back from the war. They weren't afraid of asking a girl out. They were afraid of like a landmine. Like they realized that if you survive the war and you get home, you're not afraid of girls. You're asking a different one out every single weekend. You want to start a marriage. You want to start a business. You want to start a family. They weren't just wasting their lives on social media and on pornographic apps or whatever. Like, they were initiating things. And because culture has shifted so radically, I think many single, young adult, faithful women are starting to interiorize the blame. I'm not this enough. I'm not that enough. If I were more like this and more like her, this or that, then I'd have this beautiful family I've ever wanted. Quit beating yourself up. The culture right now is unfortunately quite broken. I often compare it to what happened in China. You know, they had the one-child policy for decades. I mean, and they disproportionately aborted, I think it's something like 20 million females to males. Because if you can only have one kid, they'd want to have a male because he passes on the family name and he could support you when you get old and start a business, whatever. There's more prestige with the boys historically in Chinese culture. And so many more women were unfortunately aborted. But now these women have come of age that were born, and the males have come of age, and now the guys are looking for a wife. But where are the women of a marriageable age in China right now? A massive proportion of that demographic has been wiped out by the scourge of abortion. And now these guys are like, where's my wife? Like, she's literally not here. And so I think as similar to what's happened to that scourge of abortion, wiping away so many marriageable women in Asia, I think a comparable phenomenon has taken place here in Western culture, because pornography has literally just wiped out an entire demographic of otherwise marriageable young adult males, that he should be starting up a business and a family and all his vocations, but he's 27 years old and he's still hooked on porn. And so, no, he's not asking any of the girls out at the local Catholic young adult community because he's too busy having an erotic moment with his laptop. Meanwhile, the woman is thinking, what's wrong with me? Am I not skinny enough? Am I not this enough? Where are the guys? And then they just endlessly beat themselves up. And so for the young woman or the middle-aged woman, it's a white martyrdom. I mean, there's no other way to call. I mean, this is tough stuff, because if the devil can do anything, he wants to wipe out little holy families, whether they've already been formed or just get them from not even existing. He wants to sabotage it. It's just like you see those little sea turtles that are hatched, and they just got to make their way across the beach and just get into the water. That's why like 100 of them are born at once, because maybe 1 or 2 are going to survive. I feel like so many of these vocations are just trying to get to marriage. So many singles just trying to get there. And these birds are coming and just swooping them up. To me, it's like the devil wanting to stop these vocations before they can begin. And so that's where you might feel in a period of just like, what the heck, God? I feel like I'm being so faithful to you, and I'm obeying your commands, and I'm doing your laws. How long must I wait? It's like you're living out the Psalms of like, I feel like if I were unfaithful to you, God, I could have a family next week. I could get pregnant tonight if I just would grasp onto what it is that I think that I want, but I know that's not what I want. I don't want to settle. I don't want a godless man who could just father a child with me. I want a little holy family. And so the cross that you bear, half of the weight of that cross is the mystery of it, because you don't know when it's going to be over. You don't know if it's going to end tomorrow. You're going to meet some cute guy on some Catholic app, or you don't know if it's going to last another year or another 2 years. But remember what Archbishop Fulton Sheen said. He said that sometimes there are Christians who just give up on the cross before the nail is even put in. There's some Christians who get down from the cross after an hour. There's some who descend from the cross after 2 hours and 59 minutes. But the true Christian is the one who doesn't take himself off the cross. The true Christian is like Christ. Christ never came down off the cross. He had to be taken down. And so stay on this cross right now of uncertainty, of keeping your standards high as heaven. Because yes, it is beautiful to marry early if you're ready for that. You know, some people unfortunately aren't ready to marry until the mid-30s or whatever. But as much as you feel like you've done due diligence, that you have fought your own demons, that you've spent time in healing if you needed that, and you're ready and you're open and you're actively receptive to invitations from guys, and you're putting yourself out there and you're going to the Catholic young adult, Catholic young professionals, and I'm plugging into the diocesan theology on tap things, and I'm on the Catholic dating apps. It's all you can do is just put yourself out there. And like I remember Curtis Martin once saying, don't constantly run, is he the one, is he the one, is she the one? He said, look, just with everything you have, run with all you have after God. And after a while of running, then look beside you and see who's keeping up with you. That's the kind of person you want to settle down with. So keep your eyes on God, know of our prayers for you, but don't beat yourself up. If you've done the introspection, you've realized, no, I'm staying in shape, I'm eating healthy, I have good living habits, I've got good hygiene, I'm putting myself out there, then don't beat yourself up. Just keep doing what you're doing, be assured of our prayers, and don't get down from that cross. Any other ones rolling in, Josiah? You still there with me? I see him scribbling around on frantically on the Discord server. So Josiah will jump back in when he jumps in. But in the meantime, just a little extension on that question. Right now, if you're single, you are in a state of desolation, perhaps.
I got you now.
Oh, you're good. Well, let me just finish this thought, and then we'll hop back with you, Josiah. And you want consolation, which is natural. Just be careful not to make any major decisions, like Ignatius of Loyola said, during a time of desolation. Rather, don't grasp onto false consolations. I'm bored, so I'm just going to hook up with a guy. I'm lonely, so I'm just going to throw the towel in. Really try to find solid consolations. Where is it that you find peace? Is it through exercise? Is it through prayer? Is it through community? Is it through service? Whatever. Go do those things. If you need consolation, just make sure they're true consolations to help you through this desert. So, Josiah, what other questions we got rolling in?
I was actually going to ask if you could do kind of that same advice, but for the guys. Because I know a lot of guys who are in the same situation where they're, ready and they've done everything right and they can't find a woman. So
yeah, well, we'll make sure we'll seal up that first box. I've done everything right. What I would say doing everything right is breaking free of any addictions. That would be absolutely toxic to your future marriage, whether it's gambling, money misuse, gaming, pornography, alcohol, weed, whatever. Make sure if there's any addictive behaviors in your life, you're not just snipping at the leaves of just like, I've been sober for a week, I'm good. Like, get down to the root system. Like, when did that junk start in your life? Like, what was going on in your life at that time when you began that addiction that made you begin to nurture that false companionship you found in that consolation? Like, really get down and disturb the root system underneath so that there can be real healing. So that way, when the stress of marriage comes up, you don't come scampering back to the false consolations of what you trained yourself, habituated yourself to kind of numb the hurt or stress in your life. So make sure you're really disturbing that root situation, and actually getting down and healing any addiction. So that's one major thing you got to look at. Two, just physical appearance. Like, are you in shape? Are you hitting the gym? Do you put on deodorant? Do you bathe at least weekly? Like, make sure that you are more of a gentleman at least than a secular man would be, who's using his hygiene and health to seduce women for the wrong reasons. Like, are you doing that stuff for the right reasons? Like, no, I'm hitting the gym. I'm in shape. I remember seeing some meme or little Vine or whatever on social media, and it's talking about when there's a sexual predator later confessed. What is it that made him go after particular children to groom this one and not that one? The guy said, it wasn't the kid that I looked at, it was the father. Was the father threatening to look at? And if so, I wouldn't mess with those kids. Be threatening to look at. And it doesn't matter. Like, I'm 5'6". I don't know how threatening I am, but I'm in shape. I'm hitting the gym 5-6 days a week. I'm physically enough in shape to protect my children. Be that, be something that would intimidate a guy who would threaten your wife or your children. Like, do that stuff. Don't be like, well, the gym's not really for me. Like, get in shape. Like, go take a jiu-jitsu class and learn how to roll on a mat and de-escalate a situation. Like, go do that stuff, because women, whether they realize it or not, want a guy that they're going to feel safe around. Not just safe in a moral sense of he's not going to try to seduce me, but safe in a physical sense as well. Can this guy secure provisions for our family for the road to come? Does he have ambition? Does he have goals? Is he doing something with his life? Can he actually build something so that if God willing, we do get married, get pregnant, and I've got a rough pregnancy, do we've got a guy that can support our family for those 9 months? Because some guys will be like, well, I'll be the stay-at-home dad, and she can be the breadwinner. Ontologically, I've got a problem with that. I think the woman should work as much as she wants to. And if she wants to work, and if she wants to have this career, that, whatever, like the guy could support her in that, but I don't think that she should be put in a position of need. Like, we can't survive, unless you're bringing home the bacon and I'm just going to stay home and be the nurturer. Okay, because then what if she has a difficult pregnancy? Are you ready to pick up the slack? Like, have you invested the time to provide for your family? And this is not to say that families that need to survive on two incomes are somehow deficient or less holy. Like, no, sometimes materially that's what needs to happen. I mean, you read the description of the ideal wife back in Proverbs, and she was a working woman. Like, she did hard work, and there was no sloth going on there. But what I would say is it's an inevitable reality that there will be times of vulnerability in the life of a woman where she needs a provider and if she gets married. And so you need to make sure that you're not just sitting on your laurels, that you're kind of preparing yourself to prepare for a family if God gives you that calling. I mean, when we got married, our first baby had a lot of medical needs. I mean, we spent like $30,000 in medical bills, and that's beyond insurance. Like, with the first year or two of his life, just to make sure we had the top doctors in the nation taking care of our sick little boy. And so I remember after Chastity Talk, a kid came up afterwards, and he's like, I decided I'm going to college after your talk. I'm like, what? Like, I didn't even talk about college in the talk, but he just realized, like, no, I need to man up. And so that was the inspiration he gleaned from the talk. And so let's say you're doing all that stuff. You're taking care of career stuff, finances, fitness, spiritual health. Your house is in order. You're taking care of your interior life. You're an interesting human being. You could hold the conversation. You're not overly socially awkward. You're showing up at these young adult gatherings like, hi, I have discerned I should pursue you. It's like a Catholic stalker, don't, or you're working on your social skills. And if you're like, no, I'm really nervous around pretty girls. Okay, I get it. Go just talk to women you're not attracted to, so you can learn how to relate to them as sisters in humanity, instead of be like, I'm not going to talk to anybody unless she's gorgeous, and then I'm going to try it, and then I just totally stick my foot in my mouth. I look like an idiot, and I don't want to talk to another one for 10 years. Like, no, work on your social skills, your hygiene, all that stuff. So let's say you're doing all that stuff, okay? You're doing it. Step 2, you got to put yourself out there, and hopefully you're already doing that. Get plugged into the local young adult community. You live in San Diego, go to St. Bridget's. They've got a weekly Bible study. I think it's on Wednesday night in Pacific Beach, with like more than 150 young adults showing up every single week. If that doesn't exist, create it. Make it in your diocese. Call the diocesan office and say, hey, I'm a young adult. What young adult things do we have cooking in the diocese? Like, oh, well, they got theology tap on Thursdays, and they've got this thing. If there isn't anything, do it. Maybe get involved, if you like young people, in youth ministry. Volunteer for Life Teen or this or that. Your parish's confirmation program. A lot of times you meet good people in similar lines of service that you're passionate about. And so make sure you're going out instead of just going in. Now, if you've tried all that and like, no, I'm going to the young single Catholic professionals meetings, I'm doing this, I'm leading these retreats, I'm doing that, and I'm still not finding someone, a Catholic online dating technology. Take advantage of it, whether it's Catholic Match, Catholic Singles, Ave Maria Singles, CatholicChemistry.com. Take advantage of this stuff. I know lots of people that have met their spouses through those means because they just couldn't find it day to day. Obviously, got to be extra discerning there, because anybody can be whoever they want to be online, because there's no such thing as online dating, but there is online meeting, which could lead to in-person dating, and hopefully within your own zip code or at least time zone, so you can realistically discern marriage forward. And so if you are a guy, keep your standards high, because I know some guys will say, look, I'm doing this stuff and I'm asking girls out at these young adult communities, like nobody's interested and everybody's turning me down. It's like, okay, don't give up. Just keep asking. Like, everybody's got to feel that fear of rejection. I remember when I asked out a girl for the first time to a high school dance. I mean, I was a nervous wreck. She had won these like national beauty pageants. She went to daily mass. I mean, she was just like this perfect scenario. And man, she was so far out of my league, homecoming queen nominee, all this stuff. And I'm like, if you don't ask, then the answer is always a no. So I might as well ask, because maybe there'll be a yes. And I asked her, and she said yes. But that moment of the sweaty palms and the heart palpitations, like, guys have got to experience that. And unfortunately, Tinder and all the stuff today kind of takes it away, because it's just, commercializes dating. Like, I like you, like me? No, yes. But there's a woman who once told me the easier it is to ask a woman out, the easier it is for her to say no. Meaning, if it's hard to ask her out in person, face to face, and you're more likely to get a yes. And so give it a shot, be willing to risk, because no woman wants to marry a man who's not willing to take any risk. But don't give up. Keep your standards high as heaven. Don't beat yourself up. Keep trying.
Also, something I had to learn that I just want to add in.
Hmm.
That when you get rejected, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, for the guys, I said to a married friend of mine, a friend of mine's wife at one point that some women, instead of hearing guard their hearts, have just encased them in a block of cement, and it feels like it's impossible to ever reach them.
Yeah.
And she said that like she knows exactly what I'm talking about, and she so like just not to like tear the women down, but just because you ask somebody out doesn't and they say no doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. Sometimes the women also aren't ready. So
Yeah, yeah. So to not
yeah,
internalize and personalize and endlessly beat yourself up. And sometimes it just might not be the best fit. Maybe you never know what's going on in her personal life. And I would just invite the women, like, if there's any possibility, just give them a shot, and, try to express your interest. What I would do when I like girls, I wasn't the type that would just like go up to a stranger and ask her out because she's, behind, the counter at Starbucks and I think she's cute. Like that wasn't really my style for one, because I don't even like coffee. But what I would try to do is like, okay, I really like that girl. I'd like try to get around her friends and her, and then spending time with her. And now we're more in a social setting. Now we're going on a big group thing, and then just trying to spend more time with her to see, okay, is there a chemistry here? Like, is she laughing at my jokes? Are we bantering back and forth? Does she have an interesting personality? And so I would get to know these girls, in particular in college. And for some of them, it was like, okay, I'm really trying to put some effort forth, and it just doesn't seem like she's interested. Whereas with other girls, like, no, I'm making the effort, and she's reciprocating, and she seems like she just seems like a real playful person. She wants to go do things with my friends and with me, and we're kind of pairing off. To me, it would just be kind of these indications. Yes, yes, yes. The doors are starting to open here, and then there had to come the point where I needed to ask her out. I remember I learned a hard lesson once. I dated a girl in college for 2 years. And when we were breaking up, she was trying to discern if she was called to the religious life. And this was 2 years into our relationship. She felt like maybe she was getting a calling, and we ended up breaking things up. And it was a very amicable breakup, and we were good friends afterwards, and it was fine. But one thing she said to me when we were breaking up, she said, Jason, one thing, just to be honest with you, that always kind of, bugged me a little bit, I never mentioned to you, is that you never asked me out. And I'm like, what? Like, we've been dating for 2 years. And I thought about it, like, holy cow, I never asked her out. We just kind of hung out as a group of friends, and then more and more just kind of paired off one-on-one. And then it just became, more, serious. And then before you know it, we're going to dances together, and then we're definitely a couple, and now we're holding hands. And like, we morphed into this relationship. It was more, we're sliding into it instead of deciding into it. And I apologize because I realized, like, wow, I never even gave her the opportunity to say yes or no. It just kind of morphed into it. And I wonder if that was just an oversight. I wonder if it was cowardice on my behalf of never really saying, hey, yes or no, I'd really like to know, would you be my girlfriend? So I just say that just as a note to the guys to be intentional and give her an opportunity at some point, just like you will for the engagement and just like you will for the wedding day, give her an opportunity to say yes, to be a boyfriend, girlfriend. And before that is a yes, no to go on a date. So step one is, will you go on a date? Yes or no? That doesn't mean you're dating. It's just you're going on a date. Step number two.
just why women should say yes to that.
Yes.
Sorry
Yeah.
to
Preferably
interrupt.
give it a
If
shot.
it's a first date and you don't find him repulsive, just say yes.
It's one date. It's not the end of the world. If he's safe and you're in a public space and you feel safe and, he's somewhat 1% chance, like, so you're saying there's a chance, just give it a shot, see what happens. And if at the end of the day it's not a good fit, just let him know as much. I think he'll appreciate the fact that, hey, you gave him a couple hours of your time, and there's a little bit of a reward to his courage and confidence and just asking on a date. So yes, if you go on a date, you're not dating. If you are dating, you are not engaged, so don't behave like you are. And if you're engaged, don't act like you're married, because that person's not your wife. And boyfriends, fiancés, don't get husband privileges. And so try to keep everything, and it's nice and neat and tidy box is a nice concept, but it is challenging when like, yeah, well, I'd like that, but it just seems like we're in this gray zone and I don't know what he's thinking. And so if it comes to that, try to invite the person to kind of make their intentions a little bit clear. It could be a hard conversation, but guys, try to avoid her wondering where you're at by being more intentional and offering some clarity.
Well, we're at 4:55. I don't think we have time to get through another question, so
Okay.
we'll call it here.
Yeah.
So everybody, please subscribe to the channel, share the video, leave a comment. If you were in the live chat and you had a question and we didn't get to it, you can leave it in the comments of this video when the live stream ends, and I'll look through them and organize them for next week. If you want to call in, join the Discord server, the link's in the description, and then you just join the stage and raise your hand whenever we're live. It's very easy. Just join in, raise your hand. Join the Patreon. Patrons get first shot at questions. And Also, it helps support the show, and we are currently, hush hush, we're working on some new perks for the Patreon. So
Yeah. So, and then, yeah, I just want to ask all the listeners again, please pray for all the things you heard on today's talk. There's a lot of heavy hearts out there. There's a lot of struggles going on. If we could just be a community, not just financially through Patreon or just in fellowship online, but interceding for each other. If you could pray for me, Kristalina, for our family, for our protection and inspiration, like we appreciate every one of those prayers. Masses, fastings just means the world to us. Know that you guys are in our prayers as well. And again, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week. We will be announcing through social media, through email, hey, this is the date, this is the time. So please call in, email the questions. You can even email them throughout the week if they come up in your mind, just live@chastity.com. Oh, yeah, I want to hear what Jason and Crystal think about this. Send it on over. We'd be happy to answer it. So God bless you guys and have a wonderful week.
you guys.